Scammers are cashing in on the growth of online shopping, and the losses are staggering. U.S. consumers reported losing $358 million to online scams last year. That's according to the Federal Trade Commission. E-commerce creates all sorts of new opportunities for cybercriminals to do their dirty work, so you need to be careful. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, a contributing editor at checkbook.org.
Welcome to Consumerpedia at checkbook.org. We're the nonprofit that helps consumers select services, avoid trouble, and save money. Because we don't accept any advertising or take money from any business we recommend, you can rely on checkbook.org to be completely independent and objective. Now, here's the host of Consumerpedia, America's consumer expert, the Consumer Man, Herb Weisbaum.
In this episode, the tricks con artists use to fool you and how you can fight back. Also, the smart way to pay to protect yourself if there's a problem after the sale. Plus, what to do about the growing problem of porch pirates. Our guests today are two nationally respected fraud fighters. John Breyault, a vice president at the National Consumers League. John also runs NCL's fraud.org website.
Hey Herb, thanks for having me on.
And Melissa Lanning Trumpower, executive director of the BBB Institute for Marketplace Trust.
Hi Herb, thanks for having me on today.
So Mel, let's start with you. While a lot of scammers still use the telephone, it's clear from the BBB scam tracker data that criminals are following the money, and that means focusing on online shopping.
Yes, thank you for mentioning BBB Scam Tracker, our prevention and reporting tool. That is where consumers can report scams. They can actually also go to that platform and can look at other scam reports to find out what's being reported. But according to the data that's being reported to the Better Business Bureau, we've been collecting that data since 2015. We've seen a rise of online scams of 87%. So it's gone up significantly since we began collecting this data in 2015. I think the more alarming piece of that, though, is the fact that if you are targeted online by a scam, you're much more likely to actually lose money to a scam. So it's actually riskier as well if you're targeted by a scam online.
John, one of the common tricks scammers use to fool online shoppers is to create fake websites. And from what I've seen, these copycat sites are pretty darn good.
Yeah, the websites look almost indistinguishable from normal online shopping websites. And unfortunately, it's not just the websites. It's also ads that they put on social media. You may see these videos on Instagram or on TikTok. The scammers are getting very, very good at making what they're selling, which is really nothing, just an opportunity to lose money to them, to make it seem like something that you can't resist. They will put really low prices for in-demand merchandise like PS5s or luxury apparel to try and get you to click through and ultimately share information, whether that's a credit card number or some sort of personal data that they can use, or just send them money through a gift card or some other way. These scammers are getting very good, and unfortunately, I don't think that people's defenses against them are keeping up.
Mel, your data shows that sale prices, incredibly low prices for items, is the big draw that tends to get people to these bogus sites. Is that right?
Yeah, so we've polled people who report to BBB Scam Tracker about what their biggest motivator was in terms of after they've lost money. So what was the thing that actually encouraged you to go ahead, buy the product, and then, of course, with online shopping scams, the product is never delivered. Basically, people said sales price, like something that just felt too good to be true. That's why they acted so quickly. They just really saw a great deal, that was the top motivator, and that was the biggest reason people went ahead and lost money, essentially.
And text messages, Mel, and social media are powerful tools to get us to go to these places where they want us to go.
So we saw an increase of scams being perpetrated by text message of 40%. They went up from year over year. So it's becoming a much more common way to target people. I think what the big lesson for folks is when they see an unsolicited link that comes through either a text message or an email, never click the link. If it pretends to be from your bank or even from an online shopping platform that you use quite frequently, you should have an account. You should be able to go straight to the website to make sure it's legitimate. So it's really important, especially during the holiday season, to not just click on a link that you see coming through. Even if it looks like it's really from your bank, be cautious, don't do that. The other lesson I would share on social media is we're seeing a significant number of people report scams that originate when they're being essentially targeted on social media, whether it's the person's reaching out directly or they're running into those ads that John mentioned that look really legitimate and they have great deals. They offer amazing deals. They offer a lot of those going out of business deals or limited time offers. Hard to find items is another signal for you that they're trying to get you to act quickly. And what happens is those will pop up on social media. People will click on them and go to a website that is a fake website, and they'll buy the product and it'll never be delivered. So again, just be cautious when you're online about no matter what you're doing, whether you're actively shopping or you just happen to be browsing, you're still at risk. And so just take precautions while you're online, period.
And the other thing is a lot of people believe everything they see on social media. So when they see these ads, they believe it has to be legit, and that's far from the case.
Yeah, so one thing about social media ads is they typically come with the ability for people to comment on them, right? And so when they see lots and lots of people commenting on something about how great the product is or what a great experience it was, there's this tendency to think that this is great. People have gotten this product. They've had a good experience. And so I should go ahead and do that. But the reality with that is there's a lot of fake reviews out there. There's a lot of fake social media comments. It's really hard to tell the difference between a real review and a fake review. Just don't base a buying decision solely on social media comments or reviews. Do some extra due diligence with a third-party resource to just make sure that the business or the website is actually legitimate.
And just to add to what Mel said about how prevalent scams are on social media and text messages, NortonLifeLock did some survey last year, and they found that over half the time, consumers are first contacted by scammers through social media or text messages. So it was 38% of the respondents said that they were contacted on social media, and 28% said they were contacted via text message.
John, our friends at the consumer group PERG recently warned that some crooks are using online marketplaces such as Amazon, eBay, and Etsy to sell counterfeit or stolen items. How do we spot that?
Well, there's no foolproof way to spot these sort of phony sales that are happening on these platforms, but there are some steps that consumers can take to try and reduce their risk. So when you're looking to buy a product on, say, Amazon or eBay or Etsy, one of the things that's always a good idea is to take a look at who the seller is. You can often get information about what that seller is selling besides the product you're looking at. Other consumers can review and say what kind of an experience they had with delivery or the quality of the product that they got. You can also take a look at the reviews of that product itself. Unfortunately, we do know that user review fraud is a real and growing problem. So in addition to just reading about the product and seeing what other consumers thought, take a look and see, do these reviews seem like there's something fishy about them? Are they all sort of using unusual English language, like they might be written by somebody overseas? Are they all sort of giving glowing 100% A++ reviews? Those can be also another red flag. And then finally, if you're seeing a lot of reviews in a very short period of time, so like dozens of reviews that happen within a few minutes of each other, that's often a sign that somebody is using computer software to file those reviews rather than being legitimate reviews written by somebody who actually bought the product and wanted to talk about what they thought about it. And one more thing about buying from third-party marketplaces is that if you are talking to the seller through a chat or some other function that they offer on the marketplace, and the seller wants you to go to another communications method, text message, email, WhatsApp, that's a big red flag of fraud. We see in lots of reports from consumers that the scammers want to get you off those monitored messaging platforms that the marketplaces use onto unmonitored communications platforms like email or text message or even the phone.
Coming up next, how cyber thieves use phishing emails to trick you into giving them your account information and money. Plus a look at package delivery scams and ways to defeat the porch pirates. I'm Herb Weisbaum, and you're listening to Consumerpedia, powered by checkbook.org.
If you like what you hear, we hope you'll consider being a Consumerpedia supporter by using the link at the bottom of the show notes to make a small contribution each month. This is Consumerpedia.
Delivery scams take place year-round, but they're really a powerful lure at this time of year when so much holiday shopping is taking place online. Getting a delivery notice via text or email leading up to Hanukkah, Christmas, or Kwanzaa may not set off the alarm bells it should. These phishing emails can look totally legit. John, tell us about that.
Yeah, unfortunately, these package delivery email scams go around every year and they're only increasing in frequency. You may get an email that looks like it's coming from Amazon or Walmart or another outlet that you bought from saying there was a problem with your package or that you need to call this number or click this link to get more information. Be very wary when those happen. That's not typically how these platforms will contact you. And if you click on that link, it could take you to a site where they're just trying to get additional information or get you to send them money somehow. So if you get one of those text messages and you're worried about your package, don't respond to it. Log onto your account yourself. Usually there's some sort of message center in there that'll tell you if there's something going on with the package that you want to make sure you get.
There are also phishing emails that come from supposedly the shipping companies, Federal Express or UPS or the U.S. Postal Service or DHL, that tell you they're having problems delivering your package. And I get a lot of these. And Mel, they look really good. They got the logos, they got pictures that they steal from the real websites, and they're just trying to get you to either click on to go to their bogus website or click on the attachment with the supposed invoice to download malicious stuff onto your computer.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned the U.S. Postal Service. That was actually the second most impersonated organization, according to our risk report results last year. So that is a very common scam that's out there. One of the things that we always say is just don't click on that link directly. Go do some research, do with a third-party site. BBB.org, for example, is a great place to go and check a business out. Find out what their rating is, find out if they're accredited, which means they've been vetted by the Better Business Bureau. The other place you can go that we monitor is BBB Scam Tracker. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it's a place where people are reporting scams. Those scam reports are public. They're open for you to look at. You can do in-depth searches to find out if the phone number that's texting you was reported, if the email address that the person's sending you something that feels suspicious, see if that was reported by somebody. There's many other different ways you can search. So the point here is get into the habit of going to that third party, do a little extra research if you're being invited to go to someplace that's unfamiliar, or if it's someplace that claims to be familiar, go to the account that you use and make sure that it's a legitimate email or request.
John, I've noticed that a lot of these bogus emails from shipping companies, if you check the email address it's coming from, in many cases they've hijacked somebody else's email. They assume you'll never check it. So it says DHL at johnsmith123467@gmail.com. That's not the email address of DHL or UPS or Federal Express.
Yeah, checking the email address that you're getting that email from or the number that text message is coming from can be one way to spot a red flag of fraud. So if you were, like you said, seeing these odd looking email addresses that aren't coming from the domain of the shipping company, so USPS or DHL, that's often a red flag of fraud. And also if you are getting text messages that look like they're coming from an unfamiliar number or sort of one of these short codes that you don't recognize, that's also a red flag. So if you get one of them, usually you can go to the website of the shipping company itself, either DHL.com or USPS.com, put in a tracking number for the package that you're expecting, and then get information on what's actually happening with that package. So definitely, like Mel said, don't click on any links, don't respond to text messages. That's just the safest way to avoid some of these scams.
So as online shopping has increased, so has the problem of porch pirates. Criminals will go around and steal packages from your front porch before you can get them. The Chamber of Commerce is just out with a new report about package theft. They surveyed 1,250 people in October, and here are the key findings. More than one quarter, 26% of the respondents say they've been victims of package theft. Package theft is taking place equally in suburban and urban areas. People who live in single-family homes are more likely to report a package theft than those who live in an apartment complex or condominium. One more interesting finding, as porch pirates become more brazen, consumers are questioning the effectiveness of preventive security measures such as doorbell cameras. Among package thief victims, 22% say they had a doorbell camera and theft still occurred. So you have a picture of someone stealing your package. More than one-third, 38% of the respondents believe that doorbell cameras are no longer an effective deterrent. John, what do you think our listeners can do to reduce the chances of having their packages plundered by these porch pirates?
Well, probably the best way to reduce your risk of being a victim of a porch pirate is to make sure that there's no packages there for them to take. Most of the package delivery services and the online marketplaces will offer you some way to set up an alternative delivery method. I know Amazon, for example, has Amazon lockers. So if you're having very high value electronics, for example, delivered for the holidays, definitely consider using one of those. I know you can also ask them not to put a package in front of your door, or you can ask them to put it in the back door or behind the garden gate. They don't always follow those instructions, but certainly it's one way that you can sort of make sure that package is not there tempting the thief. And then finally, ask for package delivery updates. So if the package shows up, you get a text message. You can ask a child or a relative who may be in the home at the time the package gets delivered, or a neighbor to come over and grab the package for you. The key is trying to make sure that that package is outside, tempting to porch pirates for as little time as possible.
And I assume if you do have a doorbell camera, you can use that to know that somebody showed up at your door to drop off a package. It's not going to deter the thieves because, quite frankly, they don't care anymore. They smile at the cameras and take it, but at least maybe you'll get it before they get it.
Yes, and while it may not be as big a deterrent as it once was, certainly having that video of someone taking a package off of your porch can be helpful when you need to file a police report, or if you try and get reimbursed for that package somehow from your credit card company or from the marketplace or delivery service. It's just another piece of evidence that you can use to try and win your case and get your money back.
And I'm just going to say this because it bugs me, and I've said it in previous podcasts. While I can't hold the shipping companies responsible for this, I believe they could certainly do more to help negate the problem. They leave the packages right out in the open. When they deliver packages to my house, sometimes it's right in front of the garage, which, by the way, when I get in the car, because I get in through the house, I could run over the package. They're right at my door. All I have to do is push the doorbell and go. I know somebody was there. I don't have a doorbell camera. I think there's more the package companies could do to help protect their customers. I don't know what you guys think about that, but that's my personal opinion.
Well, from my point of view, I certainly think that we shouldn't expect consumers to be the only people who have to be the defenders in the war against porch pirates. We definitely need not only the shipping companies, but also the companies who are shipping you products through those shipping companies to work together to try and avoid this. Certainly, making sure that perhaps you are encouraging people, if they are ordering high value merchandise, to have that merchandise shipped to a more secure location than just your front door might be one way to go about it. And certainly, I don't think that any consumer should be on the hook for losses and paying out of their own pocket when, through no fault of their own, a criminal comes and steals your package off of the front stoop of your house. Maybe that means offering some kind of insurance if your credit card or some other payment method doesn't already offer that through the shipping companies. I think there's a lot more that can be done to protect consumers and not put as much onus on them to spot and avoid these porch pirates.
Because if they deliver it, it's then your responsibility. They delivered the package. If it gets stolen now, that's your trouble, not the shipping company's trouble. Mel, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's really hard during the holidays, right? Everyone's really busy and we need options for people. John mentioned some options of having alternative places to ship it, but I agree. I think we need to help people because everyone's really busy, can't be home all the time when deliveries are being made, so I think more needs to be done to solve the issue because that's how people shop these days, right? It's a problem that isn't going to go away, so I think we need other solutions.
When it comes to online shopping, the way you pay is really important. Straight ahead, more about that, plus other ways to protect yourself when you shop online. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, and this is Consumerpedia, powered by checkbook.org.
Consumerpedia Fast Facts. 57% of consumers in the U.S. say they prefer to shop online. The primary reason is home delivery. Clothing and electronics are the top purchases made online. Online sales tend to peak on Mondays and the last week of the month. Nearly half of all online purchases are now made through mobile devices.
Online shopping has only been around since 1994. Amazon and eBay launched their sites in 1995, and yet it feels like we've been shopping this way forever. Most of us shop at familiar online sites like Amazon or Walmart or Apple, but sometimes we find ourselves on a site we haven't heard of and haven't shopped at before. Mel, before we shop at an unfamiliar site, there are a couple of things we can do before logging on and giving them any personal information. Of course, one is to check with a BBB.
Yeah, I think it's important for any time that you're going to a site that you've never been to before to just get in the habit of doing a little bit of extra due diligence before you click on anything. It's really important. Obviously, BBB.org, as I mentioned earlier, BBB Scam Tracker is another place you can go if it feels like it might be suspicious. If it feels like it's suspicious, definitely spend some time doing some extra due diligence. Even a general Google search will bring up things people are saying about a website that you've never been to before. Another thing to check on is to find out how old is the site. There's plenty of places you can go online to find out how old the website is. And the one thing I would say, one red flag is if it's a brand new website and it hasn't been up very long, be very, very careful and do some even extra due diligence on that, because scammers are known for putting up websites pretty quickly. They can look really professional and they bring them down real fast when they get targeted. But if it's a new website, just be careful. So before you move forward, just do some extra due diligence to make sure that website's actually legitimate.
John?
These websites often attract visitors to them by putting up deals that feel too good to be true, things that are way below the price of what they are on comparable websites or comparable stores. So, a few years ago, Xboxes and PS5s were really, really hot items. Those are $500, $600 game consoles. And so if you're seeing something that's hundreds of dollars less than what it is elsewhere, that's also a big red flag. So before you start plugging in your credit card information onto that website that you've never shopped at before, maybe see what that piece of merchandise is going for elsewhere. If it's significantly cheaper than what you're seeing, then maybe what you're buying isn't what you're actually expecting.
There was the old advice that look in the URL, and if it has HTTPS or a lock up there, it means it's a secure transaction. Well, guess what? Criminals can have secure websites as well, and all that means is that you're securely giving your credit card information or your debit card information to a criminal. That advice to look for the lock or the HTTPS is no longer a guarantee that you're dealing with a reputable site. And I think people have to be aware of that. You got to do a little bit more due diligence to make sure you're not dealing with a con artist, right, John?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And one other thing I would suggest, Mel had great advice about checking the age of a website. If you don't know how to do that, a great way to do it is to use what's called a Whois service. So WHOIS. If you just Google that term, you'll find several services where you can put in the URL of the website that you're shopping at and get information about not only when was the website created, but who are the people behind it. Are they an American-based company or are they based somewhere in China? There's lots of information if you do those Whois searches that can tell you a little bit more about who you're buying from.
So the bottom line is, no matter how careful you are, there's always a chance you're going to get tricked by a scammer or buy something from a less than reputable website that won't help you if the item is defective or doesn't arrive. That's why when you shop online, the way you pay is really important. I'm a credit card guy. I only shop online with a credit card.
Right. How you pay is that extra layer of defense that I think all consumers should be aware of when they're shopping online. And credit cards are the most secure way to pay online. Not only do the companies behind the credit cards often invest a significant amount of resources in stopping suspicious transactions before they actually happen, but if you do get defrauded and the thing you thought you bought never shows up or it isn't what you purchased, you do have rights under federal law. Not only that, most credit card companies and banks now offer some sort of zero liability for fraud. So if your transaction goes bad, you can dispute it and you can get your money back. And while that investigation is happening, because the banks will investigate that if you dispute a transaction, you'll still have access to your funds. That's a big difference in the fraud protection that credit cards give and what debit cards give. With debit cards, your funds are basically going to be on hold at the bank until they complete their investigation. So if you need that money for other things like rent or car payments, it may not be available to you. So that's why we advise most consumers to stick with the safest way to pay, which is a credit card. And certainly, if a website is asking you to pay any other way, especially if they're asking you to pay with gift cards or peer-to-peer apps like Venmo or Zelle or Cash App, or via cryptocurrency or even via cash, those are huge red flags. The best way to avoid those kinds of predicaments and losing money is just don't use them. If they're asking you for that payment method, run away.
And a very important point you made, debit cards do not provide the same fraud protection as credit cards. You're giving somebody access to your bank account. If there is a problem, while the bank investigates, you won't have access to that money. I would never shop online with anything but a credit card. Mel, before we go, you have an important tip to share about trusting your gut based on BBB surveys with people who have become the victims of scam.
Yeah, so when we do our annual report every year, we do survey research and we ask people who reported to Scam Tracker what helped them avoid losing money when they were targeted by a scam. And the top response every single year is that they felt that something wasn't right and therefore they ended the engagement. Essentially, they just felt something wasn't right and they stopped the engagement. They didn't go any further with the transaction. And so it's a really important learning. Something people need to do is if they feel that something is off about the situation, just stop, pause, and just end the engagement. There's nothing, no transaction or anything that's important enough to kind of move forward without doing additional due diligence or even getting off and talking to a friend about it to sort of get their gut as well. If you're feeling something's off, just stop and don't move forward, and that will help protect you.
And John, what should someone do if they find themselves the victim of an online scam or basically any scam?
Well, if you're the victim of an online scam, talk to the bank or whomever that you have used to pay for that transaction and see if there's any way that you can get your money back. But then the very next step should be to report that scam. Unfortunately, fraud and being a victim of scams is a crime in this country that for some reason doesn't get treated like being a victim of any other crime, like a carjacking or a burglary. We have this culture of blaming the victim, and people often feel embarrassed about being the victims of a scam. Unfortunately, that's exactly what the scammers want you to think. They don't want you to report this crime. So even if you've been a victim, if you feel like you shouldn't have fallen for it, it's still important to report it. And the biggest reason why you should do that is that you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping other people. File a complaint at Scam Tracker at BBB or at my website, which is fraud.org, the Federal Trade Commission, or your state attorney general. You help all of these bodies to identify trends, to report that information to the proper enforcement authorities. And hopefully, if we all start reporting scams on a regular basis when they happen, we'll start to put a real dent on these problems and put some of these criminals, and that's what they are, criminals, behind bars.
Well, this was a great conversation. John Breyault, Vice President at the National Consumers League, Melissa Lanning Trumpower, Executive Director of the BBB Institute for Marketplace Trust. Thank you both for spending time with us and hope you have a very, very happy holiday season.
Thanks, Herb.
Thanks, Herb.
Well, that's it for this edition of Consumerpedia. We hope you'll rate this episode and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Remember, we release new episodes every other Thursday. Another way you can support this show is to follow us on Consumerpedia on Facebook and Instagram, and at My Consumerpedia on Twitter. I'm Herb Weisbaum. Thanks for listening.
Consumerpedia is a public service of checkbook.org. We're a unique nonprofit that helps you save money and make smarter choices. You can count on Checkbook to help you find the best services and avoid the worst, with local ratings that are accurate and unbiased. If you live in or around these 7 cities and haven't joined Checkbook yet, check us out. Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, Seattle, San Francisco, Minneapolis-St. Paul, and Washington, D.C. To get your free 30-day subscription, go to checkbook.org/consumerpedia. If you like what you've heard, we hope you'll become a supporter by using the link at the bottom of the show notes to make a small contribution each month. Consumerpedia, empowering consumers to save money and make smarter choices.